Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Brainsmasher, and today we're going to look at 4 overlooked black metal classics. And in the background, while I flap my gums, you're going to hear the sweet, sweet melodies and brutal harmonies. Man, I haven't put this on in a really long time, and it is sounding so good, distractingly good. We're going to be listening to the first album that we're going to be covering here, and it's Weltenganger by Lunar Aurora. Germany's Lunar Aurora. These guys wound up putting out a shit ton of albums, maybe 9 or so, and I love all of their discography. I worship their discography, even the last one, Hoagacht. But this is the debut, and I think it is maybe my favorite. I really have a hard time picking a favorite, but this is the first one. And I remember reading about this album in a catalog back when I was like 17 years old, and I was pining to get a copy of this album for so long until I finally pulled the trigger, and I'm so glad I did. There's a strong element of keyboards going on here, but I think the most interesting thing about it and the most unique thing about this record is just the unrelenting, pummeling, furious and vicious pace of the drummer. He is just blasting away constantly. And then moving into these double bass sections, it's just super atmospheric and uplifting and intense. For bands back when this came out, 96 or so, Voices Productions put this one out. I think Lunar Aurora were really bringing their A game from the beginning and pushed bands to do a lot better as we moved into the 2000s. There weren't many bands out there, I don't think, that were able to play this unrelenting, intense, and brooding of music at this time. I'm not sure, but I don't think you can get this on vinyl. Lunar Aurora is really hard to come by on LP because they've got their fan base and those guys are plugged in, and anytime Lunar Aurora does really anything, all that shit just disappears instantly. Because they know Lunar Aurora are fucking gods of German black metal. Lunar Aurora shouldn't be overlooked, and especially their debut, Weltenganger. Enjoy it in the background. So next, man, I guess I celebrate the catalog of Necropolis records pretty regularly. And I encourage you to go into Necropolis and fucking buy anything. You can't go wrong with it. And I always felt like Necropolis's catalog and bands and albums would always be celebrated as total classics, but there's some that are you got your Arcanums and the Black and stuff like that, but there's a few that kind of slip through the cracks that I guess I never expected it to be that way. And Niden Division 187 is one of those that I feel like is probably pretty well forgotten by now. The album is called In Purgium, and I will never forget the feeling when I first heard this record. It came out in 97. It's another 97 album. And I never heard anything like it. It's got this just visceral, intense, murderous, and vicious kind of tone to it. But in some ways, the way that the drums are super compressed while he's just blasting away. This is Morth from Dawn drumming on this, and he is an absolute furious blast master on this. But this is also war metal, kind of like the Abigor Apocalypse EP that I was talking about in my last video. This came out around the same time, and I think this also kind of blazed the trail for a lot of that kind of intense, murderous kind of war metal as we moved out of the 90s into the 2000s. But I don't know, it just seems like a lot of people don't know about this In Purgium record. So this is 2 members from Dawn, Henke Force and Morth, or Jokka Peterson, and then 2 members, I think 2 members from a Canarus Quintet, which is a melodic death metal band also from Sweden. And so they're really trying to simplify things and kind of strip away the melody, but there's this undeniable tendency to play melodic metal in this band, and I think that's just the perfect sweet spot. They're super intense, murderous, and visceral, while being melodic, and it's really sweet too. There's some sweetness to the riffing there too. And the way that it's produced and recorded, I think, is just absolutely brilliant. It has tons of character, being super compressed and fuzzy and memorable. The songs are kind of all over the place. There's really short songs. It opens up with a 2-minute long track. And the longest track on here is 3 minutes and 44 seconds. There's some slow songs on it. It's not all just blasting brutal all the way through, but it is a fucking godly masterpiece in Pergium. Speaking of fucking killer riffs, Mutant with the Aeonic Majesty. I would be really shocked if any of you guys are familiar with this record, but God, it is so fucking good. Listenable Records put this out in '98. Not a whole lot to look at. It's got some really hilarious kind of artwork. I do this in my videos, and I should quit doing this, but I'll show like the cover, get you a chance to look at it, but then I'll go, see this? See this? See this? It doesn't matter. But this is a more experimental black metal project from Peter Lake, that's his name, of Theory and Practice. And Theory and Practice is this technical death metal band that I really like. Their debut, Third Eye Function, is godly. But this was just like kind of a one-off kind of weekend project sort of thing, I guess. It seems like he didn't want to put that much work into it. It's got a drum machine to it that ordinarily, I guess I would say it's maybe a little one-dimensional with the drum machine. But this is kind of one of those records that's trying to be late 90s, futuristic, barbaric, kind of like cyber blasting black metal. And usually that kind of stuff is really boring and one-dimensional and kind of just washed out. But this thing is chock full of goddamn amazing riffs. You gotta believe me on this. I might even try and plug in a little clip here. Listenable Records put this out, so I don't know, I could get dinged on copyright or whatnot, but you should be able to find this for $3-4 or so, and you gotta get it. The riffing on here is just super good, and it's not just that there's like one guitar playing good riffs. He does an awesome job of having second guitars that interplay with the main guitars. Bass playing is flawless on it. Peter Lake is a goddamn genius. And the vocals on it are also really tastefully done. The Aeonic Majesty by Mutant. Get this, man. It is killer stuff. And last, we're going to Lithuania. Poccolus. This is a self-titled release, and it came out on Hammer Heart Productions of South Korea. Not to be confused with Hammer Heart Records of the Netherlands. I thought that was the case until I finally got a copy of this a couple of years ago. It is kind of rare and it's hard to find, but man, it is so good. It's really keyboard driven, and it reminds me quite a bit of Master's Hammer, but sometimes it reminds me of De Mysteriis Dom Satanis by Mayhem. There's some really simplistic riffs going on here, and it's really hard to pull that kind of stuff off, and Poccolus does a really fantastic job. It is kind of keyboard driven and atmospheric. It's well produced. Look at this. Look at this booklet. Can't get enough of that. Just gold all around for everybody. This came out, it was recorded in '95, so I don't know, that's really all that counts. Good stuff. I don't know why more people haven't picked up on this. It is kind of an oddball, strange kind of release, I guess, but it is worth mentioning. It is worth going back and picking up. Poccolus, Poccolus. Get that today. All right, that does it. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.